drilled it expecting to get more, 1.5% nickel type thing, which would be fine, which would be great. you get a lot of happy people finding a 1.5% nickel. We drilled it expecting to get more, 1.5% nickel type thing, which would be fine, which would be great. you get a lot of happy people finding a 1.5% nickel. Nonetheless, what we found was something quite completely different. We found our discovery hole was almost 8 meters of what was about 1 ounce PGMs, 1.5% copper, and it was 60 meters from surface. So it was quite a surprise, and obviously a happy surprise. We hit some amazing holes, really, each one sort of better than the next. We had, I don't know, at least, 5 or 6 holes of 10 meters or 10% copper equivalent or better, some over 20%. Unheard of holes really anywhere in the world, in the history of the world. So that's how good it was. And, so that, made us really sort of rethink what we had here.
Happy Friday, everybody. Mega mergers to start the season. Wow, big news. It's all potential. It's all rumored to be happening. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'd love your thoughts on it. But two of the industry's giants, they're titans, apparently in talks. So we're talking about Rio Tinto and this deal, this mega merger with Glencore would be $158 billion if this merger went through. Now, there are some sources and some rumors out there saying that it never actually went beyond the initial stages of discussion. So there are some rumors saying it's not happening. But listen, even them sitting down to discuss a merger of this size, of this scope and scale, is pretty exciting. And it reminds us of last year, BHP and Anglo America, them trying to come together to make a deal. And we're going to take a look at some of the numbers, what it would look like if Rio and Glencore were able to put something together and make this happen, some of the pros, some of the cons. But before we do that, I'd be remiss to not just make a quick shout out to two results or two big news things that came out because it is substantial. And one is AMARC Resources. They put out some big news today from their new high-grade Aurora copper, gold, silver deposit discovery in collaboration with Freeport-McMoRan at their Joy District in British Columbia. Big numbers here. So I'm not going to bore people too much with the exact numbers, but it's significant. It's a big deal. And as Dr. Diane Nicholson says, the president and CEO, impressive new high-grade porphyry gold, copper, silver discovery, pivotal for AMARC and shareholders. This has been relentless groundwork by the team and support from unwavering support from Freeport. This is big. The stock jumped 100% basically this morning on this news. So great to see. We like to share these big wins and these big moves. Now there's a lot more to nail down, to dig into with AMARC, and luckily we're going to be seeing them in about an hour and a half, 2 hours, because they are going to be at the Metals Investor Forum today. So in person here in Vancouver, I'll try to get a chance to sit down and ask them some questions and have them walk through what this means and what this is developing into. But great news for them. The other one I want to mention, and of course, don't work with them. I don't own shares of that. I wish I did. But this is what can happen. I mean, these kind of sleepers, I'll call them a sleeper, that's been hard at work for a long period of time in Canada. We know we've got lots of resources here. They come out and boom, one hole, and it can change things very quickly. And congratulations to them. The other one, which we do own and we're very happy and excited and thrilled about, and I'll have a big article on, is First Phosphate. So they came out with their PEA. And no, once again, I'm not going to go into too much details, but they've got projected, the project would produce an annual average of 900,000 tons of beneficiated phosphate concentrate and 380,000 tons of magnetite. Basically, over a 23-year mine life, which is pretty solid, it would generate an internal rate of return of about 37%. Net present value of that is $2.1 billion at an 8% discount, all in Canadian dollars. Pretty outstanding. It's pretty huge to think that this is a $30 million market cap stock. So once again, very niche, very specific, absolutely critical for anything battery related. Great to see. We're really excited. This team over there in a very short period of time has been knocking out of the park, largely ignored. And we love it. The stock is up quite a bit. I think it's up 100% for the year because they've come out with this. But before was the news from China that putting tariffs on DLE and lithium, and this is tied directly with lithium and any type of lithium extraction because we're talking about life batteries. Anyways, this isn't about that. It's just great news. We like to share great news, and this is more about the entire market. We've been kind of hoping that we'd see this type of thing with the mergers. Let's just watch a quick take, and this is from CNBC about Rio Tinto. And the reason why I want to show it is it's a great little clip, but it's also from CNBC, so a major news source who's also like uttering and reiterating the same narrative we've been saying for years. And the more that a major outlet, whether it's CNBC, whether you like them or not, CNN, Fox, ABC, NBC, all of them, the more that they're putting out news about how critical mining is to any of the desired goals is great. So let's just watch a quick clip of this CNBC clip.
So what you see behind me is, from my personal view, one of the most iconic mines in the entire mining industry. We move roughly 150 million tons of earth every single year to make sure that we always have access to our ore body.
Copper mines, like this one in Utah, are on the front line of America's transition to clean energy. This site, owned and operated by mining giant Rio Tinto, produces roughly 200,000 metric tons of copper annually. Global demand for copper, a major component of EVs, is expected to almost double from 25 million metric tons to nearly 49 million metric tons by 2035. But miners face a multitude of issues as they ramp up production.
All right, we'll pause here. So we know what the challenges are. I mean, it comes down to environmental permitting and all those other things, and we need to fast track a lot of that in order to meet any of the desired climate agenda or energy agenda, whichever way you want. There's two narratives that are equally as important as far as I could say, whichever one you choose to go down. They both mean more mining. Is that we're in an energy competition. We need energy independence with the East and the West. And there's a climate initiative and discussion that is going on as well. I don't mind which one you like and which one you support back. Maybe it's both, maybe it's one, maybe it's the other. But it means that we need to be focused on delivering those critical metals, and mega mergers and deals and discussions like last year's BHP and Anglo one that fell apart. And whether or not this one progresses or not, this one's interesting because both Rio and Glencore, we're talking about iron ore, copper, and coal. Now, that's plus and negative. What it shows from Rio's perspective is a much more diverse portfolio, especially when we consider they just bought Arcadium Lithium. So they look to be really making a strong, very future-focused approach on critical elements and critical metals moving forward. And that's very compelling and very interesting. And this type of mega merger would bring about a huge market attention, but also showing that the spending spree that's possible is massive. There's tons of cash flow generating from not just the precious metals ones, but a lot of these base miners as well. Now, of course, there's been a lot of mixed reaction to it, like in all things, because when you have mega diverse portfolio assets companies working a deal together of that magnitude, there's a million things one must look at. And the market didn't necessarily look at it favorably or unfavorably. It's just kind of, we're trying to figure out what's happening overall. what we can say for sure, and I'll just look at some just numbers off the top that I pulled up. You know, you're looking at, say, Rio Tinto revenue. This is for 2022, 54 billion, down from 55 million. Revenue for Glencore, 217 billion. Net profits, 4.3 billion for Glencore. Net profits for Rio, 10.1 billion. Very interesting. And on and on. Free cash flow, which is a big deal for Rio Tinto back then, was 7.7 billion. And that speaks volumes there. Where we are seeing a lot of pros is that the scale and power, like sheer market power to compete against BHP is huge. They would dominate iron ore, they would, copper and coal. It would give them a lot of bargaining power with any adjacent suppliers, any of their customers, and certainly moves a big gap between any other rivals. Strong, diversified portfolio, as we mentioned. Glencore really leads with coal, which that's also a big con. And they had huge sales in thermal coal. But the synergies of the two companies, lots of cost savings. I think RBC analysts estimated potential savings $1 billion from integrating marketing and sales operations. That's no laughing amount of money. So energy transition, it would mean that they were focused as a combined entity for meeting the needs of any kind of energy transitions. Of course, access to capital, big giant, conglomerates like that get the attention of your majors, your Goldman Sachs, your BlackRock, all of those. It's a lot easier for them to place the amount of money they need to put into deals when it's of magnitude. Now, of course, the cons. There's the obvious whenever you're doing any kind of merger is there's cultural issues in there. And people look at Glencore as being a lot more aggressive than Rio Tinto. I'd love to see your thoughts. The consensus is Rio Tinto tends to be a bit more conservative and long-term. And with their view of looking at these critical metals and where things are going, I would say that's a fair assessment. Because right now, if you thought with lithium, it's not looking too hot. Didn't look too hot last year. Why would you buy it? Well, because everyone knows you're going to be using lithium. It doesn't matter that it's down today. They're looking out 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. The amount of lithium consumed and where it's coming from is going to matter. And I see that as a strong play. But within all of that, when you have different types of teams that are used to being more aggressive, that culture can be exceptionally difficult to merge. And I think if anyone could relate, I would say it's kind of like when you get, say, HR or the ethics commission of a company, or kind of the more the paperwork people, and you put them in the room with the sales force. That doesn't mix often very well. You've got extremely hyper extrovert personalities that are big, fast talkers, and then more analytical, methodical, calmer people. It's a strange mix. So you can imagine trying to fix two cultural distinctive companies together is always a challenge. Of course, there's always regulatory issues, and the amount would be pretty huge. And also, just is there a misalignment? And the market would look at this and go, you just bought lithium. Why are you picking up a lot of coal? That sends a mixed message to many. Now, we're going to dig deep a little into that as well later on the road. But it to a lot of people that aren't as familiar in the market, that would send a bit of a complex head scratcher. Like, okay, what's the take here? Of course, then there's investor pushback. There's a big difference in cash flow here, a big difference in sales, but also in profit, and that people have to get their head wrapped around. The investment bankers sitting down to carve out what this deal could potentially look like is very challenging. So it is, to my assessment, just an exceptional illustration of what is to come. We're in that season right now. We're going to see a flurry of activity up until PDAC here in Canada. And already, as we mentioned, those two companies there that had great results. We had at the beginning of the year, Ramp Metals with amazing gold reports. We had Dr. Quinton Henning on talking about just on Wednesday about the exceptional layer cake that's being built with Goliath. I mean, it's enormous what's happening, and the more eyes that are on things, the better. And it is really refreshing, regardless of what the market's doing. And I know there's lots of ups and downs. There's lots of uncertainty still out there. That we see this it's happening. It's coming together, and to see this mega merger, will it go through or not? I don't know. I mean, it's pretty huge. It's going to take a lot of work. And if some of the rumors are that, listen, it really never got off the ground, that's interesting. And once again, send me your feedback. Tell me what you think. If you think it could go through. If it doesn't, we have to keep it in the back of our mind. BHP was looking to spend some money. What are they going to be looking at? All these gold companies. Barrick is having problems in Mali. They've suspended operations as the government there has basically taken their assets, which is troubling. And this is what happens in some of these foreign jurisdictions that you run into risk. Will they be interested in looking at safer jurisdictions and saying, oof, there's a lot of assets in some of these, especially African nations or South America. There's resource-rich countries, but you can run into these issues. So you always want to have a good sense of the political issues in those countries moving forward. And that's hard to analyze, because if you're buying something today that could go into production, it's going to take years. So, it comes full circle to, if we had some sort of framework in Canada and the US to develop assets in order to meet the critical needs that all of these companies, whether it's Oklo, whether it's Constellation with 3 Mile Island for nuclear, all of the car companies requiring lithium, requiring phosphoric acid and high-grade phosphate for the lithium iron phosphate batteries, whether that means the solar panels and silver. You've heard me say it a million times. There needs to be one organization body, which they used to have. I think it was the Ministry of Mines in the US, that oversees, develops, and sets forth a guideline and gets it done. And that would be huge. Even for, it would actually, to have something like that where you could narrow it down, would actually really quantify quickly who, from the environmental side of the discussion, who's actually interested in meeting climate goals, and who actually is more just an economic leftist who just doesn't want things to, doesn't want energy, doesn't want necessarily technology to improve, wants things to slow down. And you'll often find that sometimes these organizations, NGOs that are under the auspices of an environmental group, it isn't that they're necessarily that push on the environmental aspect of it. They just want projects to stop. And it's interesting to go do a deep dive into some of them. And even some of the books that I've read in the last year, where they flat out have interviews with people. And when they break it down, the people just say, listen, we just don't want projects moving forward. End of story. So if that's what you're fighting against, then it isn't about climate change. It isn't about trying to make a world a better place. It isn't trying to solve some of the carbon issues. And that becomes frustration for a lot of people, because most people want to have this change and see a transition in energy. And it only means one thing, and that means mining. There's no way around it. It means, recycling some of the ore and whatnot as well. It means a lot of really cool technology that's coming out in leaching and cleaning up old leaching pads and sludge. Basically, there's lots of great things happening, but it means a big highlight and spotlight on all of these things. And now is a great time to do it. They've got cash. All of these majors, a lot of these gold companies, they've been kicking out awesome free cash flow, and they're going to be looking for things to buy. My suggestion is that the only thing holding back is we're waiting to see what comes out of the US, not only from the tariff perspective, but is there going to be a clear path where Canada can be utilized for all of the incredible resources it has, the incredible brainstem of how to get things out properly, cleanly, within a very strict regulatory framework that we already have, and get things done. And that's what we need. We need someone in charge to manage this as like a project management kind of idea of, can we meet these goals, these aggressive goals that, whether it's COP or World Economic Forum or whichever climate organization that you like, that they're concerned about, if they have any dream of meeting any fraction of the goals that they set, it means very aggressive mining very quickly. And I think the sooner that people get their heads wrapped around that, the better off we're going to be, because we have a framework for doing things correctly and within a regulatory framework and environmentally sound. And I pose to people like, listen, if you think that the climate discussion is of such importance that like it's the end of the world by 2030, 2040, 2050, or whatever, that it's going to be such a catastrophic change that we can't even understand, then that would mean you take off all the brakes to create all of these solutions now. And would you take a bit of risk to say, listen, may we have some issues with one mine? Listen, it might happen. You would be motivated to say, I need to understand what all the solutions mean, what it takes, and let's get some of these mines going as fast as humanly possible. If you really believed that that was the case, that we're in that dire straits in 20, 30 years. So for me, I see this as being an incredible opportunity this year that's coming together, where hopefully, I mean, once again, they are politicians. Politicians are vying to present a plan that not only is going to help, say, the U.S., Canada, the West in general, to get back on its feet, and how that they can utilize these resources towards the right applications and the right people, whether it's AI, robotics, you name it. So I see this mega merger, even if it doesn't come together, as a huge, excellent sign of what's to come. And there already is. I mean, companies sniffing around, looking at things, wondering, is it too soon to buy in? If I buy today, am I getting a deal? Also, if I allow a company like Goliath to continue mining and continue pulling out holes and to continue, growing the size of this layer cake that's, the size and scale of, I think it's about a quarter of downtown Vancouver and the height of the CN Tower. If we allow them to keep growing that, how much we have to pay in 6 months, in a year? All these companies are looking for projects. They need to be in sound locations where they can rely on what they're going to work with. And also they have to look to see if they're economic. And we're lucky because we cover a lot of projects that are outstanding results, that have a lot of eyes on them. And we are very psyched about the year ahead. And I'm going to keep this short because we've got to go to the Metals Investor Forum. Got a lot of people to go talk to. And of course, VRIC starts on Sunday. We're going to have a very busy day there as well. And then AIM on Monday. So this is going to be a great week to set up other people's thoughts on what they think for 2025. And we will report back to you. We might even go live there as well and try to grab random people that will talk to us live at the show and give their thoughts as to what they think is going to happen in 2025. I obviously am very bullish in our sector. I think there's obviously, for the larger market, a lot of concern, lots of overvalued stock out there. But once again, it doesn't take much to move a junior mining market. And there needs to be billions coming in to fund these things to get them done. So that's going to happen sooner or later, as far as I could see. If any of this narrative about climate change, about trying to meet any of the goals of nuclear, if any of that's true, that means a ton of money has to flow in. And the sooner people get educated, get caught up to speed, and get comfortable with the entire idea of mining and what goes into it, the better off they're going to be. Because like, Warren Buffett says, you don't look for the hottest thing there and chase after it. A lot of these hottest things have had their run. You want to find the thing that makes them and is unloved and uncared for, and quite frankly, almost hated in the market, but is critical. And mining hits all of that. So I'll say goodbye today. Happy Friday, everyone. It's going to be a flurry of information on our blog. It's free. Jump in there. Of course, we're going to have a kind of paywall behind the scenes one for more detailed analytical work that we do and companies that we're buying. But all the other blog information, all these live streams are all free. We want people to get out there and get excited about what's happening. And we're going to see a lot happen this year. Happy Friday, everyone. And we'll see you again soon.
Drilled it expecting to get more, 1.5% nickel type thing, which would be fine, which would be great. You get a lot of happy people finding 1.5% nickel. nonetheless, what we found was something quite completely different. We found our discovery hole was almost 8 meters of what was about 1 ounce PGMs, 1.5% copper, and it was 60 meters from surface. So it was quite a surprise, and obviously a happy surprise. We hit some amazing holes, really, each one sort of better than the next. We had, I don't know, at least, 5 or 6 holes of 10 meters or 10% copper equivalent or better, some over 20%. Unheard of holes, really, anywhere in the world, in the history of the world. So that's how good it was. And, so that, made us really sort of rethink what we had here.